This is episode 21 of Baba Yaga's Magic, the magic of bread and salt. There's an old Ukrainian saying, where there is bread and salt and porridge, there is our home. In Ukrainian culture, chleb sil, or bread and salt, are not just food, they are powerful items filled with rich symbolism, deep history, and potent positive magic. Bread is the sacred gift of grain from our Mother Earth, our Mati Semlia, and salt is that once rare seasoning that gives flavor to life. Bread and salt are honored in song and sworn upon when making agreements. They are included in rituals for the construction of a new home, for marriage, for welcoming newborns, and for seeing loved ones off to the afterlife. And for Ukrainians who are famous for their hospitality, bread and salt are the stars of the show when it comes to welcoming guests. So in this episode, I'll be going over the presentation of bread and salt and some of the many magical rituals that include this dynamic duo. Before we dive in, do you want to be a part of my inner circle? Are you a basic witch or a supreme witch? A good witch or a wicked witch? Well, whatever kind of magic maker you are, I want to make magic with you. If you're ready to level up your magical practice, prioritize your spirituality, and have fun making magic with me, then you must be a part of the coven. Join the coven and get access to exclusive perks that you can get nowhere else. There are monthly coven exclusive Q&As at the Spirit Speakeasy, monthly tarot card pulls at the Tarot Salon, a spot in my monthly group spell service, a free on-demand video workshop each month, Patreon-only polls to pick new products, upgraded discounts at the Magical Mystery Marketplace, exclusive flash sale coupons, and so much more. Look at all the connections we can have and magic that we can make. So join the coven and get started making magic fun again. Simply go to coven.vip to see all the levels and all the perks that you can take advantage of throughout each and every month. Go to patreon.com/Madam Pamita or coven.vip and sign up today. All right, there is an ancient Ukrainian tradition of welcome where we offer bread and salt to honored guests who come into our home, and it's called chleb sil. When we spoke of the rushnik in last week's episode, I told you about the presentation of bread and salt on the rushnik. The ritual goes something like this. The host prepares a circular loaf of bread with a little well at the top of the bread. In this well, a dish of salt is placed and the bread is carried to the guest on a rushnik. The person receiving this bread tears off a piece, kisses it, dips it in the salt, and eats it. This transaction builds a friendly link between the person who is offering the bread and the person who is receiving. And according to Ukrainian custom, bread and salt is presented as a sign of great respect for the person you welcome during this very solemn, very sacred ceremony. When we meet a dear guest with bread and salt, it's a custom that has deep roots and still exists going back to ancient times all the way up to the present day. Bread, salt, and a rushnik are eternal, beautiful Slavic symbols. And bread and salt on that beautiful embroidered cloth were always the sign of hospitality of the Ukrainian people. There's a natural reverence for chleb or bread because, there's so many sayings, just to start, there's so many sayings that express the importance of bread and salt. But there's one about bread that really expresses its importance perfectly. Bread is the head of everything. Bread is not just food. It also has rich meaning as a symbol for hospitality, for prosperity, for happiness, for long life, for health, for well-being, and protection in the afterlife. Bread is probably the most prominent and most popular and most significant food product of our ancestors and even today. There are, as I mentioned earlier, many, many sayings about bread and salt in Ukrainian folk wisdom. For example, there's no dinner without salt and bread. Without salt, it is not tasty. Without bread, it is not satisfying. That's one. Another one is, where there is bread and water, there is no hunger. Another one is bread and water is Cossack food. And without bread, you will have a dry conversation. So bread and salt are seen as super important just culturally. Now, bread has long been a symbol of well-being and hospitality. And for centuries, Ukrainian people treated it as a sacred object. The crumbs and scraps of bread are never thrown away. They're given to the poultry or cattle on the farm or given to the birds outside if you don't have a farm. It's considered a sin not to eat a piece of bread. And if a piece of bread falls on the ground, we and kiss it up to God or kiss it up to the heavens and then finish it. This is what my mother did. And I used to think, what's this weird thing that she did? Well, I found out it's actually a Ukrainian thing. It wasn't just her weird little quirk. It was actually something that all Ukrainian people at least know of, and many of them still do. It's considered an insult to our holy Mother Earth, who is very sacred in Ukrainian belief systems, to throw away a piece of bread. Even the crumbs that are on the table are collected and either shared with the farm animals or shared with the birds outside, or even thrown into the air as an offering to the spirits. And it's believed that if any bit of bread is thrown out, then you're actually throwing out your wealth and your luck as well. So you don't throw out bread. Bread is never tossed into the trash, also because it could be used by your enemies to cause you harm. So bread is also what we give to our loved ones if they must travel to a country far away or they're traveling. We not only give them bread so that they can eat, but so they are protected in those travels that they are doing. And the love that we put into that bread that we've made for them travels with them. When you're baking your own bread, and traditionally for centuries, people baked their own bread at home. They didn't go to a grocery store or to a baker to get bread. They made it themselves. They would ask for a blessing from the spirits when they were making their bread, and they would never disrespect the bread by swearing or cursing while making it. If you would do that, that would be an invitation for poverty and famine to come into your home. So this was treated as a very sacred event, making bread and sharing that bread and putting your magic into your bread. Now, salt is also a very potent tool for protection from negative people and from Vroki, the evil eye. Salt was also considered very, very precious, very rare, a very expensive item. And it was expensive back in the olden times. Chumaks were salt traders who traveled very, very far to bring bread all over. So these were like little traders on wagons, that they were on a horse and buggy, and they would travel from village to village selling salt and perhaps selling other things. They were travelers that would do that. And they would get that salt down in Crimea, and then they would bring it up into the other more inland areas and sell that salt. But salt was something very dear, very expensive, very rare, very valuable. So to share salt with your guests was considered a great gift. It was like offering something that was very valuable, the best in your house. You were offering that to your guests. So that's why it was considered so important, so valuable. And what this was such a beautiful and meaningful ritual. Now, in a minute, I'm going to tell you why bread and salt are considered to be so magical. But before we jump into that, I want to invite you to roll up to the Magical Mystery Marketplace. That's right. There's a new fun event coming your way every Sunday. It's called the Magical Mystery Marketplace. And it's a little bit of a fun hangout, a little bit of magical education, and a whole lot of witchy QVC. Each week, I pick a special topic and then feature some of the amazing products that we have at the Parlour of Wonders and show you how to use them in your magical practice. Every week, it's a surprise as to what the spotlight items are going to be. And for everyone watching, there's a flash sale on the featured products. You'll not only have fun, you'll save money too. And if you purchase any of the spotlighted items during the live stream, you're eligible for the raffle we have at the end. And we'll be giving away one of the spotlighted items to one lucky person each and every week. And if you're a member of the coven, you get an additional discount. And if you want to find out how to be a member of my coven, you just go to coven.vip. It takes place every Sunday, except for the first Sunday of the month at 6 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Mountain. 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. And you can watch it over YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. Just subscribe to Madame Pamita on your favorite social account and click the notification bell so that you get notified when we go live. I'll see you at the Magical Mystery Marketplace. Let's go back to our bread and salt. So bread is a talisman. It's not only a food product, but it combines the energy of all four elements: water, air, earth, and fire. And salt, in relation to bread, is the fifth element that connects the material world and the mystical and spiritual world. So now you understand that bread and salt are not just offerings that are basic, but they're offering something quite magical. It's not by chance that Slavic people have welcomed their guests with bread and salt. Bread is a wish for well-being, and salt is a talisman because, according to long-held beliefs, evil spirits, anything negative, does not want to be around salt. So salt is a cleanser, salt is a purifier, and salt is a protector. Bread is a symbol of well-being and prosperity and has always been and remains a welcome guest on any table. You know, having a dinner, having a meal, you would always have bread with your meal. And it's a living thing with a gracious and generous disposition. Our ancestors believed that bread forces you to be respectful, and it rewards the family with peace, health, longevity, and prosperity. As I mentioned earlier, it's not allowed to throw bread away. That was considered a sacrilege, and someone who did would know hunger and disease. To put bread on a table upside down with the bottom side of the loaf up is a big no-no in our Slavic magic and in Ukrainian magic. If you do it by accident, it would cause a quarrel in the home. And if you did it intentionally, it would bring illness to the people of the home. Now, another little rule about with bread and bread at the table: it would be considered rude to take the last piece of bread from a plate, especially at a wedding. However, if you are invited to take it, if it's offered to you, then it will bring in luck and money. So you don't want to just take that last piece of bread. But if it's offered to you, do take it. Don't refuse it, because then you're refusing your luck and money, you're refusing love, you're refusing all good blessings in your life. Now, it's very good. Of course, bread, we get, we're, people who are probably not bread makers. Some of you might be bread makers, but it's good to make homemade bread at least once in a while, because when you bake bread and you bake it with your own hands, it is something that you can put your intention. And when you put your intention into it, it helps you to keep negativity out of the home, keep trouble out of the home, keep diseases, keep poverty and all of that stuff out of the home. Homemade bread is actually quite a powerful talisman for healing. If someone in your house is sick, you can give them a piece of freshly baked bread, let them break off that piece of bread with their own hands, and that is a talisman to give them health and restore their well-being. Now, another magical thing that we can do with salt, as I mentioned earlier, salt is for cleansing and blessing and protecting. So many people carry a small bag of blessed salt as a talisman to ward off evil. And this is like carried in a little bag. It's carried on your body, in your pocket, in your knapsack, or wherever, just to keep as a talisman wherever you go, as you're traveling or going throughout your day. You're keeping that energy of cleansing, protection, and blessing with you as you go. There's also an amazing and magical counter curse that is known. So if you feel like somebody's cursing you, or someone does curse you by swearing at you, flipping the bird, or doing anything, you can say salt into your eyes, and that's a counter curse. And that's a way to send back that curse immediately to someone. Salt into your eyes, or salt in your eyes, is a way to send that back. Now, if you say that to someone, if someone in an English speaking country who isn't Slavic says that, that'll throw them off too. So I think that's also a good way to keep that negativity from sticking to you and sending it back to the person who sent it to you. Now, if in our old agricultural communities, people would use bread and salt as an offering. You could offer it to the spirits, for example. And if you wanted to make an offering to the spirits on your ancestor altar, or offering to the spirits of the forest, or the spirits, the Rusalki next to the water, the Lisovuk near in the forest, or whoever, you could offer bread and salt. And that's a wonderful offering. It's a very hospitable offering, a very powerful offering to give them. But we also made offerings to the spirits of the field. And on the first day, when the seeds were being sown in the field, the owner of the field would put bread and salt at the edge of the field to make that offering to the spirits of the field, so that there would be a good harvest. They would watch over the crops, make those crops abundant, and there would be a good harvest at the end. Now, there's also another belief about salt too. If a cook oversalts the food that they are making, there's a belief that they're very much in love with someone. So it's kind of a way, a divination. If someone oversalts the food, you know they're in love. They're not thinking about their cooking. They're thinking about the one that they're in love with. And there's a belief about salt that if you spill salt, that you'll quarrel with someone, you'll have an argument. And that makes sense. If salt was very expensive back in the day and someone spilled the salt, it would start an argument. Oh my gosh, you're wasting this precious salt that we have on the table. Salt was also used in the construction of the home. And if you were creating your home from scratch, you would put down, the basic markers, I guess, for the home as you were doing that. And then a table or a chair with a rushnik on it and a cross placed on it, and bread and salt and water were left on the site of the building. Now, when they would go back the next day, they would look to see what happened to that bread, salt, and water. And if the bread, the salt, and the water remained untouched, or the water increased because maybe there was some moisture of some kind, this was considered a good sign. If something was disturbed with the bread and the salt or the water, that was considered a sign that you shouldn't build a house there. So there you have it, a wonderful stories about bread and salt, and this beautiful bread and salt ritual that is so Ukrainian, so special. It's just such a wonderful ritual of hospitality. So I hope you look into that, and you find there's lots of little, if you look up Ukrainian bread and salt, you'll find lots of videos on YouTube showing that ritual, and you'll see people presenting it on the rushnik. Well, that about does it for this episode of Baba Yaga's Magic. If you would like to get even more info about Slavic magic, then check out the Learn page over at the Parlour of Wonders, where you'll find a ton of resources, including workshops, blog articles, past podcast episodes, and the way to join me live over Zoom for the Magic Q&A Tea Party that takes place every Sunday except for the first Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Eastern. Just go to parlourofwonders.com and click on the Learn tab to see all the goodies there. I want to say thank you to all the Spell Squad members out there who have subscribed to and shared this podcast with your friends. You are amazing. I want to say thank you to the fabulous folks who have left reviews on iTunes and Stitcher. Those reviews are so helpful, and I appreciate you taking the time to do them. I want to say thank you to my coven members who are getting all kinds of extra benefits. So thank you too for joining me as well. I want to say thank you to Gilles Navarre for production and engineering, and thank you to you for joining me. I'm looking forward to next episode when we'll be learning about Poludnitsia, the spirit of the field. So until next time, this is Madame Pamita and Baba Yaga saying Za Mahyu to magic, and may all of your stories have the happiest fairy tale endings.